Right.
Also.
All right, so welcome to everyone. I appreciate you being here for another exciting, riveting calendar committee meeting. We have with us our calendar committee chairperson, and that is Mr. Nelson Moyer. And so I'll give the floor for opening remarks.
That's great to be here, everybody. Again, I'm a calendar nerd. I look forward to calendars all year because I just think that, time is the most valuable commodity there is. It's the only thing that we have that we can't make more of. It's important to be in school. It's just as important to be out of school. And so I love doing this. I'm just a geek about it. So thank you all for your participation.
All right, and I know that we've got quite a few empty seats. I'm sure folks will continue to come as their schedules make them available. I do want to go through the items that are in your folder. I do want to go through the items that are in your folder. The first item should be your agenda. And you can see it's pretty short, pretty sweet. We try to be as direct and intentional with these meetings as we can. There should also be a list of committee members. That represents to our community how comprehensive this work is. We try to be inclusive, not only of our schools, but also of our teaching staff and our administrators. And this year, for the first time that I've been doing this, we actually have a student representative, and that student representative is coming to us from Isaac Bear Early College, and so we are very excited to have her with us today. Next, you'll see in your folder several blank calendars. We want to always provide you with the opportunity that if there's something here that doesn't work, that we can begin from scratch. So we do provide draft calendars, but we are not opposed to looking at alternatives to the calendars that are there. Just a little bit about those calendars. We typically start, and when I say we, I really mean Cherry. We typically start with the previous year's calendar, make adjustments in the dates so that they line up, and that becomes our base. For our specialty calendars, such as Isaac Bear, Wilmington Early College, C-Tech, pre-K, we, in our year-round as well as restart, we do rely on the experts there. And so for those schools, primarily their calendars are driven by those individuals. Next in your folder, you will see draft calendars for the 2022-2023 school year. We'll start with the traditional calendar as a part of our conversation and then go from there. And then, just as a model in your folders, you should also have included the calendars from this current school year, so the 2021-2022 calendar. The sixth item that should be a part of your folder is the latest school calendar legislation summary. For all of us who were part of this last year, we remember that there was a huge shift in the legislation. All of that expired last year, and so we've reverted essentially back to the previous legislation. We have next your holiday schedule for the 2022-2023 school year as from the Office of State Personnel. So there are other holidays. We're not ignoring those, but these are the ones from the Office of the State Personnel. And then makeup days, calendar law, we have that information included. And then important contact page. And so all of that should be a part of your folder. If you're missing anything, then please let me know, and we'll work to get that information to you. So what I'd like to do now is draw your attention to our first calendar that we're going to look at, which is our traditional school calendar. And here we go. But before we begin that discussion, I'd love to share with you the feedback I've gotten around calendars, and for you to share any feedback that you've received around calendars. And then also maybe to talk a little bit about the expectation and your role on the calendar committee for those who are new to this. From my perspective, the only feedback that I've received has been extremely positive. The folks that I've spoken with have shared with me that they want to maintain the first semester ending in the month of December, and that the school year ending before the Memorial Day holiday. So that has consistently been expressed to me. We acknowledge the challenges about not having work days and breaks through that kind of long, hard sludge from the beginning of the school year down through Thanksgiving, but we also understand that in order to end this first semester by December and to maximize the number of instructional days for students, understanding that they're significantly reduced than the ones on the second semester, we really don't have room for that. So we've heard that feedback. And the other piece is the feedback I've received is that teachers appreciate having more than 2 or 3 or 4 work days on the front end of the school year for the training. And I'll say even with this year with COVID, that even wasn't enough. Amazingly, I think we had 9 work days on the front end, and that really was not enough for all the things and the responsibilities that we put on our certified and classified staff. But overall, the feedback I've received has been very positive about the calendars that we've presented. So I'd love to kind of open the floor. And if you share it with me, I'll restate it, just simply because we're live streaming and you don't have mics at your desk. Oh, they do have mics. I'm sorry. You do have mics at your desk, so you can just speak into the mic. So yes, anyone with any feedback or thoughts about current calendars?
I guess the only feedback that I've received, besides the positive feedback, was that teacher workday at the end of the first grading period in October. So I think that's the 17th. And I'd really like to hear from our principals and teacher reps on that, because I know that has been a point that people have really tried to hammer home, at least with me, is that grading period we finish, and I'd love to get that semester done with as soon as possible. I don't know if we maybe add a day at the end or right before Christmas break. I'd like to get off as early as anybody else, but if it's a real big issue for our teachers and principals, I'd like to hear about it.
So from that, the suggestion would be that the 21st become a student day?
That's in my mind, if they think that that's beneficial, if our teachers would rather have that day, because that is a long slog.
I will say that I've heard that there have been too many days in August on the front end. And if we could redistribute 1 or 2 of those days in September or October for a teacher work day, that would be ideal for that end of grading period, long stretch of September and October with nothing off.
So again, that puts at risk our ability to end in December. So if we think about where the priority lies, what we could do is, very honestly, last day for students and teachers could be December 22nd. Somebody's eyes just got really big.
And would the 22nd give us, that would give us 2 days to move around and play
So
with?
the 22nd would give us 2 days to distribute. So students would be getting out on December 22nd. I think that's the latest we've ever gotten out. Yes.
One thing that I've had some people comment with, they were starting school on a Monday.
Yeah, this-
And then the first week was
Yeah.
a full 5-day week with students. That they would like to see it like it used to be, starting like on a Wednesday.
Okay. So again, that takes away 2 days. So if we did that, then that would take us to the 22nd. But then that would not give us any work days to distribute.
Can I ask a question about the law as I read it here? Says start date can not be earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th. Is that, so if is that the 22nd or is that the 29th?
You know, you are correct.
I don't want to get all the way through and then somebody come back and say we have the wrong start date. When I was looking at this, that was the hard part for me, was because if by law we say we have to start on August 29th, we've already lost 5 days of instruction. And that's what makes this calendar this year particularly difficult, finishing in December. I want to finish in December just as much as anybody else, but we already know it's lopsided in the wrong direction. And if we take 5 more days off, it makes it really difficult. So I think that would be my very first question is, when legally can we start?
So no, and thank you for that. So you are correct. So our start date would have to actually be the 29th.
So I just, so then I think the other question I would have is, how late feasibly can we go in December?
So, the 23rd is actually a holiday. So the latest you could go would be the 22nd.
So we would still have to make up days in January for that first semester.
So I guess that's the hard question. So do we want the first semester to go beyond the December break?
Is it possible not to, based on what Charlie just
It
shared?
is,
Okay.
it is.
You
But
just
it's
have-
not possible to add your teacher work days.
Or if we start on the 29th, would we still have 4 undesignated teacher workdays and 5 designated teacher workdays? Would it be, or if we start on the 29th to finish by Christmas, we would have to cut those down?
So if we start on the 29th, the number of work days on the front end would remain the same, if that's what we chose. And the ones that are on the 21st and the 22nd, we would more likely than not put them at the end of the year. Because again, we just lost 2 student days. So students already are short in terms of instruction, and now we just took 2 additional days away from them. Because of the desire to end by December. So the question becomes, what is most important? So, once you've identified what's most important, then you build backwards. And of course, we want to maximize the number of student days as well as balance the needs of the teachers as well.
As far as what's most important, I would defer to the secondary schools as far as ending that first semester.
And how does that impact testing?
So when you say impact testing, what do you mean?
Because, well, there's a certain time frame of giving the end of course.
So your semester-long courses, you still have the 5-day window that you would
Right.
administer. So again, you've lost you've lost the additional 2 instructional days, and now you've got 5 days, which are for your EOCs.
If I'm looking at this correctly, though, the first day back for the first undesignated teacher workday would drop down a week, wouldn't it? So we would start, the first undesignated teacher workday would be the 16th.
So we're just moving, where the undesignated, designated teacher workdays are, there really is a lot of flexibility around that. You know, and especially for folks who aren't familiar with this, what the calendar law requires is that we identify 2 days for which teachers can take leave. So whether a day is designated or undesignated, a principal can designate that day for their particular school. On this calendar, we only designate the days for which we're planning for district training, but principals can go above and beyond that. So we can designate or undesignate as we need. So from my perspective, what happens is the 9th and the 10th become a part of summer break, and then the 25th and the 26th become work days. Oh, no, wait a minute. Oh, no.
It's a whole
Yes.
week.
See, I was just thinking
As well
since we
as
started a week
yes,
later, we
no,
drop
you're
everything
exactly
down.
right. It
one
moves
day.
down a whole, it does, it moves down a whole week.
So
You're
the
exactly
first day of
right.
school would be the 29th.
Yes.
So
it
we're
moves down
losing
a whole
five,
week.
a whole week.
Yes.
Instead of 2 days.
Yep.
And so, the reason I bring that up is just because I am, like everybody, concerned about, you know, the load our teachers have borne. A later summer, I mean, if they're cramming all this in for that first semester, which I do think is still important. I think that's critical. And I know it's awful, but at least that later summer gives that extra week on the front end to sort of get ready for.
Well,
Can you speak to the imbalance? What does the imbalance look like
So-
with this calendar if we decided to go till the 22nd or 21st?
so I don't have the exact number of days in the semester, but I think we're probably looking at probably 10 to 12 days more in one semester than the other, which is significant. So you've got 2 weeks of additional instruction on second semester than you have first semester. But again, we can fix that, but the way we fix it is if we go back and we end the semester after the December break.
So with that extra 5 days, because we can't start until the 29th, and that's taking 5 instructional days, is it, to the gentleman over here's statement, is it even possible to end by Christmas, by the holiday break? With those 5 days?
It's possible, but
It's
what
possible.
happens is it adds to the imbalance in the
Okay.
semester.
I don't know everybody else's. I would personally like to, I think that is so critical for our high school students and our middle school students to end and have that, you know, you have that mini brain drain throughout that Christmas break, at least with my kids. I would really like to see us end, and I know it's pushing it, but end on the 22nd with our students. I know that's the latest. I get it. It's just kind of a funny year. But that's just me. I don't know. I'd love to hear from
Yeah.
Paul, Ms. Bronco.
Yeah. It works out much better for high schools. I can speak to that, but, then you've got to worry about the 5 days of exams too, because that cuts into the instruction piece also. But if you
And
come
the
back,
dual learners that attend at Cape Fear, is there also is an alignment? Do we have to look at that as well?
So
The best we can?
yeah, so it definitely helps those students out, especially on the second semester
Yeah,
side.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
which is when a lot of students will start.
it's too much, especially in EOC.
So does ending before the holiday break outweigh the imbalance of the semesters?
Yes.
I think if you let we have a young person, your thoughts, if you don't mind.
On behalf of students, I think that they would prefer having that break, just based off of what I've heard from my peers, in comparison to the long stretch, which everyone complains about it because you know it's bound to happen, and most years it's pretty unavoidable. So I think having that nice break that you can look forward to during that long stretch is preferable to maybe one day that might cut into having a very happy space time.
I appreciate that perspective. So if I understand what you're saying, the preference would be to end the semester in December, not have to worry about courses coming back, in January, taking your exams, that type of thing, just closing that out, and that overweighs just having kind of this random day in there that
There's
maybe.
also not much that you can do. Like for a teacher, I could imagine that it would be monumental. But for a student, there's not really that much that you can do, especially with mental health as well. A day is nice, but ultimately having over a week to really sit there and get yourself together, reflect, have time to enjoy the things that you don't really get to do during the school year is much more preferable than a day which most would probably spend watching TV, sleeping in, and then you're right back to the same grind year.
You just described the teenager that lives in my house. Yeah. So again, thank you very much for that perspective. I appreciate that.
And if I may, if Cape Fear Community College were an area high school, it would be our largest high school. We have that many college and career promise students now. And speaking, from firsthand experience of teaching them, the last 2 years have been a monumental shift with regards to where we end the semester. It's been so helpful to those students.
So I think the consensus is that we want to end in December. And I think the acknowledgement is that it's a challenge. What I will say is that as the 26th moves, it does get better, then it gets worse, then it gets better, then it gets worse. This would, in essence, be representative of the worst case scenario we would see. Because I think, by my calculation, we would end up with 168 student days, whereas I think last year we were able to get 172. Yeah, for the traditional calendar. All right, taking a look at second semester where we do have a little more flexibility. Again, we've got those, let me clarify. So do we want to end on the 22nd? So do we want to take the 21st workday and the 22nd workday and end on the 22nd? If we do that, we could then, and using the logic, and Nina, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, using Nina's logic, we could then look at the 5th and the 6th being one, an annual leave day, because we would need to build that in, and the other, a teacher work day.
You talking about January?
So yeah, so January 2nd is a holiday. We can make the 3rd annual leave. We can make the 4th, 5th, and the 6th teacher work days.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
I like that.
yes.
Now, please understand, when we all walk out of this room, we need to own it together. Don't say I did it. Because again, I think, folks are going to need support and understanding while we're going to end as late as the 22nd.
Dr. Smith, can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
What we were just discussing, if going back to first semester, thinking outside the box, not saying that we like this idea, but just putting out ideas out there, would we want to, in order to gain a work day back at the end of the first quarter, as we've discussed, would we want to entertain the idea of the 23rd being an early release day of November, that Thanksgiving?
So November 23rd being early release? You mean like a half
I know we
day?
did it for years.
Okay, can I talk to you as a parent?
Absolutely.
But I'm very interested in the perspectives of other folks. My experience in the conversations I've had with folks are half days are not very beneficial instructionally. We spend quite a bit, especially larger schools, spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out lunch and bathroom breaks for staff.
And I would say it's full student day, but I just know that day right before Thanksgiving,
My preference would be to give that to staff for them to have those 3 days.
Okay.
How many of our school sites are voting locations?
That changes from year to year, but there are quite a few.
Okay, because I know, and again, we're trying to find a day, at least I'm thinking of that. We used to go to school on voting days, and for a while, we've said that's a teacher work day. Would it be possible to work with November 8th as being a school day and then taking that day and putting it at the end of the first grading period?
I honestly don't think so. And that's just speaking.
Thank you for responding.
Yeah, I honestly, just speaking as, somebody who's worked those I really doubt it. I think over half of our schools are polling sites. Well, I know over half are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a monumental challenge.
I mean, we used to do it, I'm just saying, if we're,
I think there would be a lot of challenges associated with that.
Sure.
I think, especially now, the safety risk.
Yeah.
I think that is a decision that probably would maybe put the calendars at risk if we didn't have that reflected in this.
I just didn't know how many, if we had 4 sites or if we have 24 sites, there's a difference, so.
Okay. All right, and again, this is not the only discussion that we'll have. Sometimes, initial information and then the opportunity for reflection will help. But I think what we've got to do is really communicate the importance of ending in December and then ending before the Memorial Day holiday to folks. And then again, building the calendar backwards, understanding the limitations we have. And also what allows us this flexibility, and we'll need to go back, Ms. Smith, and calculate the minutes. We need to make sure that we're meeting the state requirement on minutes. So that's, the main driver, and while your days are currently longer than they have traditionally been. So we bank additional minutes so that we can make modifications. All right, so second semester will start officially on January 9th. We talked about the teacher work days and the annual leave days following the holiday that we've got that first week of January. January 16th is a holiday. Let's see, is there a need for teacher work day or anything in addition to in the second semester in a different place? And then also, of course, the location of spring break.
What's the reason for the April undesignated work day?
All right, any other discussion, comments, questions about the traditional calendar?
Where does Easter Monday fall?
I believe that's the 10th.
Good Friday on April 7th.
It'd be the 10th,
It's the 10th.
10th of April.
Is that undesignated work day supposed to be on the 10th?
Let's see.
Like for this calendar that we're under right now?
Oh, it should be on the 10th.
Okay,
So let's move that, Ms. Cherry.
yep. That's what confused me too.
Okay, me too.
At the end of the year, last day, half day for students, and the grading period is the 25th. Traditional high school graduations are on the 27th. I think that's something we need to talk about, but I'll also say, as with last year, we had graduations at different times. Do we want to go back to where we were in terms of using trash? Or do we want to look at something that's different? I think that is a conversation that surely could be had, you know. Graduation of trash was a tradition that, you know, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, we would never have stepped away from, but also I would not have believed we would have gone through a global pandemic. But now, you know, we've done it quite a couple of different ways, and so what works best for our families? Because, you know, graduation really is about, you know, the celebration of our students. So if we need that to occur during that week, or to show up somewhat differently, then we can have those conversations as well. All right, any other discussion about the traditional calendar, maybe except for graduation? That might be a kind of a secondary pull it apart.
One more question.
Yes.
I do know that next year that teachers will be required to take part in the letters training. Do we know enough about the timing of that training and how that's going to roll out at this point to help inform this calendar?
So we don't in terms of days, but we do have the flexibility of scheduling it to meet our needs. My
Okay.
understanding is we're going to try to do as much on the front end in August as possible.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for all your comments, your questions, and for catching those errors. I really appreciate that. All right. So this is our year-round calendar, and Ms. Wheeler, I think you were pretty instrumental in putting this together. Anything you want to share specific or questions or concerns you've got about what's okay?
I think it looks good.
All right, wonderful. And next we have our restart year-round calendar, and we don't have our restart principals with us, but I know Ms. Sherry Smith worked very hard with them to personalize this. And then we have our Freeman restart pre-K, and again, I don't know if you have anything you could speak to?
No, Dr. Smith, Cherry and I have been working closely. I just noticed, though, on the Freeman Restart Pre-K calendar, our days need to match. So the June 9th needs to be a mandatory red day, just like it is on their calendar. And then the last day, yellow day, on the 13th, like it is on their restart
Okay.
calendar.
All right, Ms. Sherry, you got
And
that?
I'll get with Cherry on that,
All right, thank you.
starting in.
All right, and then our pre-K calendar.
I think that looks great. The only recommendation I would have is if we want to, since we as a district do not do half a days for our students, in the legend, we could remove that in hopes of not, adding any confusion.
Okay. And we'll make the adjustments on the start
Yes,
dates,
ma'am.
just like we will with the other.
And Jan, if you have anything, we've got 4 home visit, we've got 4 staggered, we're right on target there. Got our 2 home visits smack in the middle, right by our checkpoints, so great job.
All right. Ms. Lennon, any comments?
Not at this time, looks good, thank you.
Wonderful. And again, I'll share this. One thing that our superintendent has the ability to do that previous superintendents didn't is to make small tweaks along the way. So, we've had changes that we've needed to make because venues for graduation were no longer available to us, or things have changed. So we can make small tweaks. What's really important is that we communicate this, especially to our families, so that they know that we don't make major changes, but we can make small tweaks if there are things that need to occur, or things that happen that change the calendar. All right, Isaac Bear, and so I'll defer to you, Mr. Valines, and to you, Nina.
I think the one question I have, since I've been at Isaac Bear, I have trouble explaining this every year. And when I was looking at everybody's student days, trying to understand why Isaac Bear goes 185 and everybody else goes 182.
Well, that has been how Isaac Bear has designed their calendars in the past. Is there a reason or if there's a need or something specific or reason you need to make a change, we surely can do that or defer to you. I don't think
I
that.
agree with you the last few years, I don't, it's, even when Nina just asked me a few minutes ago, I don't really have a good explanation to 185 and everybody else 182.
Well, I don't know that folks have built them up specific on the days, because the number of days that have to be the same for everyone is the 215. And so the 215 are built out for staff. The number of student days, because of the fact that you're early college, is very flexible. What I would offer to you is probably just a well-worn path. You start with your previous year calendar, you duplicate it where you can, and then you follow it throughout. So I don't think that there's any legislative requirement. The 182 over the 185, I think it's more or less you design the calendar that best meets the needs of your students. So if there are changes and tweaks you want to make, we can definitely do that.
And I was waiting for this because I was working with Cherry last week, just looking at what we were going to present, and I didn't have this backside which listed the days. And so once I was able to see it, I was saying maybe I can continue to look to see what I could tweak, just to, if it's just not 1 or 2 days, just to get closer to everybody else's days.
Yeah. Well, and I would say to you, I wouldn't let the days drive, I would let the program. If you need, 185, you can do 185. If you need, I think the most you can do was 185. But if it works better to have, 182 or 181, so that, you can have additional days for professional development or something else, then to me, I'd let the program drive the days more so than just the number itself. But I would say probably just a duplication of your previous year's calendar is what has driven that. All right, any changes, just if you'll send those in to us and we'll take care of that. And then, so we've got WEX and CTEC, so I will defer to Ms. Wooten.
We're good. We've been in contact with Terry, and we're both in agreement with what our calendar looks like.
All right, wonderful. And then these are the calendars from this current school year. Okay. Any questions, anything we missed, anything we need to consider?
Just going back to the pre-K calendar, with the week starting a week later, I just wanted to double check with Ms. Smiles if the fall family conferences and TS Gold checkpoints would need any adjustment just because
Yes,
the children
ma'am.
aren't starting quite so soon.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
will work with you to shift all
Yeah.
of those, because you're exactly right. Your
Thank you
pieces
for that, Ms. Lennon.
they are contingent on each other. Okay? All right, so I think we're at the point of the meeting where you get tasked with like your next steps. So what we'd love for you to do is to share this far and wide and to solicit as much feedback as you can. We don't have our parent representatives with us today. They had some conflict. I'm sure there's quite a few folks watching on the YouTube channel. But we want to make sure that we're sharing with teachers, that we're sharing with classified staff, we're sharing with certified staff, we're sharing with our, year-round staff, restart staff, and especially our parents and also our students. And if you don't mind gathering that feedback, once you have it, you can send it directly to me or to Cherry so that we can kind of respond to it. Again, what I'll tell you is a lot of suggestions will come in about spring break, whether it's here or whether it's there. A lot of suggestions will come in about the time from the beginning of the year to December about adding some additional work days. Anything you can do to help folks understand that we started with what being most important was ending by December, and then we built it backwards would be really, really helpful. Because again, the only way that we're going to be able to adjust that is to take even more days from students. And what limits us, and this, and Mr. Broadfoot, you pointed out beautifully, is the date by which we are legislated to start no later than, or no earlier than, and it is the Monday closest to the 26th. So when it falls on this date, then we can go really, really early, and we can get much more balance. But where it is right now makes it extremely difficult for us. We used to experience the same thing when we went in January because of when we had to end. Our ending date is not the issue now, it really is our starting date. So anything you can do to help folks understand that. I used to respond to teacher advisory questions, and invariably I'd get very similar questions over and over each month, and I got to the point where I just kind of copy and pasted the answers. But this is not something that we're wanting to do to people. This really is something that we are trying to do for our students and for our families, and we definitely want to do them with them. So what I'll say is your voice today is very important, and if you could share it and gather the voices of others, it would be, it is very, very helpful as a part of this process.
And that's after we get the amendments.
Yes.
We don't
I mean,
send
you
out
can,
tonight as
no, I wouldn't send it out, but you can surely
you.
have the conversations. And again,
Yes.
because we're live streaming, I'm sure folks are hearing this, and, you know, hopefully they'll reach out to the person that they're closest to. So pre-K teachers are going to reach out to Ms. Lennon, they're going to reach out to you, they're going to reach out to their principals, and so you can support them in understanding that. Yes. Want to remind you, our next meeting, believe it or not, is October the 7th. Which seems like, you know, yesterday, kind of. And our goal is to bring a recommendation to the board in November. We can go as late as December, but if we can bring a recommendation to the board in November, that gives our families even more time to plan.
But you will be sharing the revised calendars out with us?
Yeah.
Oh, very
Okay.
much so,
Okay.
very much so.
Thanks
Yes.
for that.
Yes. All right, any questions, anything else? All right. Yes.
On the traditional calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
For the holiday break, we said that would begin on the 22nd. Or
So
22nd would be the
it would
last day
begin
for
on the
students.
23rd, so our last
Okay.
day with students would be the 22nd. So we would go as long as we could. And what I'll do is I'll give you the breakdown by semester. So how many days in semester 1, how many days in semester 2.
Do we know at all if legislature is ever going to look at that start date? The only reason I ask is there any chance something happens soon and we would be able to revisit after we pass this? Because I think if we had flexibility, we would want to come back in December and change it.
I'm going to let this gentleman respond.
So that was going to be the statement that I closed out with. The way out of this straitjacket is calendar flexibility, which we've tried every year to get. Please call your legislative there is a bill up there. It looks doomed. There's a bill up there probably every legislative session that affords local, school districts calendar flexibility. In this area, and I think across the state, we need it. Because when it comes to weather, when it comes to being innovative, we all have different needs, we all have different ideas. And I think we've shown as a district that we're responsible enough to have that authority. So I'll be making a phone call as soon as I get out of here. If y'all know any people, you're all constituents, please call, all of your contacts up in Raleigh and get that done for us, help us, because I'll be making them, please do the same.
All right, well, with that, I think we will close out our meeting this afternoon, and thank you guys. I really appreciate you being here.
And thank you, Cherry Smith, for all
Yes.
your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
And Dr. Smith.
Oh, no. All right, thank you, guys. I'll keep them all fairly laughing when I think about it.